Okay, good evening from here. My name is Paul, and you're welcome to Opinion Sharers. Opinion Sharers is a platform where people from all walks of life come together, especially everyday people who otherwise will not have a platform on conventional TV stations to be able to hear their views and share opinions. So today, we're going to be talking about the International Youth Day, and I have with me on the show tonight youths from Africa, but from different countries of the continent. Michael, Nigeria has happened to you already. Okay, okay, now you're back. I'm glad you're back. So we're going to be introducing ourselves first of all, and we will start with the lady in the house. Linda, would you please switch on your microphone and please briefly introduce yourself? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having us here. My name is Linda Bauma. I am from Congo, DRC. I am a lawyer and a gender advocate, a gender equity advocate. And I'm so happy. I'm very happy to be here with you today. And happy Youth International Day to everyone.
Okay, Linda, thank you very much. James, please introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, good evening, Africa. Good evening, friends. I'm glad to be back again on this platform. Basically, to have this opportune moment to discuss the theme of the International Youth Day celebrations 2021. My name is James Cleto Mumbere. I am a Ugandan, proud Ugandan. I am a youth inclusion advocate. I also do budget advocacy, policy advocacy in a range of different thematic areas, ranging from agriculture to health and many other issues that relate with the entire ecosystem of a young person in Africa. So I am pleased to be part of this engagement and to share my opinion on this platform of opinion sharers in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James, a proud Ugandan. I have a couple of Ugandans here, though, and some of them are proud Ugandans. So, Michael, are you still there? Let's have you introduce yourself, please. Okay, I cannot guarantee that Michael is there. I can't guarantee him that he's there, but someone else is here. Anyway, thank you very much, James and Linda. While we wait for Michael, I'm sure on this platform, sometimes you know internet issues happen often, especially to people that are connecting from Africa. And I really wish that African government would do something, you know, seriously, urgently regarding the internet because it's the age of the internet, and you probably can't do anything these days without the internet. Anyway, let's go to the topic of the day, International Youth Day. So I'm going to start with Linda again, and I want her to just give me a perspective, just briefly, give us a perspective into what you think the meaning of what International Youth Day means to you. Linda, are you there? Did you hear me? Uh, you're not audible. You're not audible. If you have just removed
Oh,
your
now can you hear me?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are now.
Yes, I was telling you that my internet just cut and I didn't hear your last sentence. Can you come again?
Oh, okay. I said, would you please give us an insight into your understanding of the International Youth Day, just as a brief intro?
Well, I think International Youth Day for me is just a day where we need to focus on what is the leading role of the youth in global changes and have an insight on what is being done and what must be done and taking our responsibilities to build our future because today we are youth, tomorrow will be on the other generation, and how are we just are we getting things prepared for the generation behind us, and what did we learn from the people who are just there, our elders. And so yes, it's somehow a day of insight and reflection for me, where you should just getting themselves, each person should just get in himself and think about what am I doing to help changes in my country on a global area, such as environmental issues, may for instance, or just conflicts in our areas, and how can I take responsibility and action to bring positive change in my neighborhood and in my area. That's what is it for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Linda. Uh, I love your perspective on or your reflection rather. I want to hear from James as well. What's your reflection on the International Youth Day? And after your reflection, we'll go into the discussion proper. Unless if Michael also want to have a reflection. Take it away, James, please.
Well, thank you, Paul. I think my symbol or a quick take on my perspective of the International Youth Day is just to reiterate what Linda had just mentioned. That for me, my understanding is that the world gets to engage, to appreciate, to recognize that indeed there are these young people. These young people are, I could call them the forest or the nursery bed of the world today. That if the world has to exist ahead of us, then the young people must be engaged and heard, so that all the issues and concerns they have are heard, they are brought on the table of planning, of decision making, or at all decision making processes. So basically, I want to put it clear that they for me, my understanding of the International Youth Day is a day where young people get organized, to present their issues, to speak up, to voice out, to amplify their issues, basically to those who are in charge, or probably the duty bearers and policymakers at different levels, so that these issues are heard, probably they are implemented, they are financed, and probably monitored to ensure equitable and inclusive development. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Michael, do you want me to just proceed, or you want to have a view, or to say what your perspective is on the International Youth Day?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the elders in the forum, James and Linda, they've spoken. And as just to add to what the elders have said, of course, we are youth, and by the global demographic, we are, of course, the most populous of the age clusters. And I think it is very imperative, if we are the majority, then I think it is not a bad thing to have International Day of Youth, and then to discuss issues as it affects us, as it affects the present, and of course the future, which we are going to be part of. And we are beginning to see all of this happen as young people, because we are engaging, we are discussing, and what we are doing on this platform is part of the issues around the, should I say, let me say, the transgenerational discussion. So those of us who are youth today will definitely be elders tomorrow. And when we are elders, we must be able to talk from historical perspective as an elder, or as elders then, so that we can have better understanding of how to solve should I say, the planetary problem, just as it is coined from this the theme for this year's International Youth Day. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. Now, the team, as I'm aware, is transforming food systems, youth innovative for human um, play and plenary health. Now, I when I look at it, I just there's a thought that comes to my head, and that is when I saw the ambition of internet for all. You know, when people started advocating the for digital divide, I mean digital divide, you know. And when you look at it, there have been several papers that have been published about the ambitions to make data reach everybody, internet reach everybody. But unfortunately, majority of Africa today still have no internet. So now looking at this team, James, do you think it's just an ambitious statement rather than something that's real?
Well, Paul, I would say I could say it is really a double-edged statement. One, it is an ambitious statement, but presently it is not the reality on the ground in many of the African countries. I know, for instance, in my very own country, that internet access is not actually a preserve of so many of everyone. For instance, I would say that recently there was a levy that was charged on data. 12% the excise duty was capped on internet on data. So, I mean, that in itself is a limitation to so many young people who would love to use probably the internet for as a means of digitalizing the agriculture sector or the agricultural value chain, for instance. So, in my own sense of right, I would say that is already a barrier. And I know that in many African countries, this is actually a very big barrier to the progress and the innovation of the young people. You know very well that African youth are highly innovative, but some of these innovations, to be innovations, they require data, they require the internet, they require a lot of research, and internet is expensive. So by that in itself, that means that we are still a little bit lagging behind. And with the COVID-19 emerges, you know very well that many of the African countries are advocating for, online studies. So when you are charging, you're putting taxes, heavy taxes on internet, and then you're advocating for these school-going children, school-going, all these students, whether in secondary, university, or primary school, and they can't afford this data, I think that will in itself is a limitation. So that's why I'm saying, yes, presently it is a challenge, and perhaps the UN body bringing this as a theme for this year's International Youth Day is a call, is urging all the young people to make a call to governments so that they put the enabling environment for everyone to have the internet access for also it is very useful in the food subsector. That's what I can say. Thank you.
All right, James, thank you very much. I love the perspective. I'm glad that you compare the internet availability or accessibility to the food transformation system that is, an agenda that has been proposed by the UN to the youth. It's a huge responsibility, that has been behold or put on the shoulder of the youths. Now, Michael, um, when you look at youth participation, especially in Africa, do you think there has been meaningful participation in governance and policy making in Africa? And what are the hopes going forward?
Yeah, thank you for that question. If I may answer from historical perspective, I would say yes. But along the line, the narrative changed because when I said from historical perspective in the sense that those who fought for the liberation of Africa from the colonial rule, they were young people, relatively young in their days, and we can mention them on and on, the likes of Thomas Sankara, the likes of Kenneth Kaunda, the likes of I mean, we can mention our brother from Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, and so on and so forth. But the trajectory changed along the line because people possibly lost interest in the governance environment, in the political environment, and because of the gap that happened, I think it led to maladministration, it led to malgovernance in Africa, and now it has warranted, or rather, betting the need for us to start asking ourselves for that young people should engage, should participate in politics so that the narrative can change and we can begin to ask critical questions as it relates to our well-being as young people, as it relates to social cultural social economic renewal, as it relates to demand for accountability across board. So at present, I can say that young people are beginning to come up because the percentage of those getting involved in the governance and the political environment is very small compared to the other cluster of young people who are not even aware of what should be done, how to go about the demand for accountability in the governance environment. So I can say we are coming up gradually, and I hope that the tempo will be sustained. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Uh, James, looking at the Ugandan perspective, or let's say maybe East Africa, if you can speak for the East African countries, do you think uh, youths are being encouraged, to participate in policy, in government, in politics? And are you hopeful?
Well, thank you, Paul. I think just like Michael put it, across Africa and East Africa in particular, yes, young people are being encouraged to participate in the governance system. And to be very precise, at different levels, there are those different leadership structures that call for the participation of the young people. You know very well that I think largely in East Africa, every country has a national youth council. We have youth parliamentary representatives. We have, largely the years for one to participate in elective politics have been reduced. But also in the private sector, young people are encouraged to participate in the NGOs, the civil society world, they are there. But the challenge comes as to how and what meaningful participation do they render when they participate. Yes, we are talking of, yes, we have the numbers. We have the numbers across Africa. We have the numbers across Uganda. Largely here in Uganda, 78% of the young people compose the total population of Uganda is largely young, where 78% is, they are young people. But when it comes to voting patterns, there are issues where they have actually been, I should say, disadvantaged when it comes to leadership and participation in governance. For instance, in governance, you'll find there are issues to do with commercialization of elective politics. Young people who have just come out of university or school will not compete favorably with old men who have been earning money, either perhaps through corruption, and that in itself becomes a limitation. When you look at issues to do with the governance itself within the food system, within the food systems, especially with the emergence of the COVID-19, very rarely have I heard of young people being a focus, being a target group, to be one of those who are vulnerable to be given an upper hand in maybe food relief or mobile or cash relief. Young people have not been there. And then it even gets worse that even the young people or the young leaders who are there, who would really be the voice of the young people, when they get there, they are consumed from, I don't know what powers they are in those houses in parliament or what, that they even immediately forget that they are on the ticket of the young people and begin to behave as though they actually, the day they join, say for instance, parliament, they begin to work towards the next election. So they do not actually have the care to listen to the views, the ideas, the issues of the young people. Their target is to keep their positions in those houses. So if someone has joined parliament, for instance, on the ticket of youth, then they will begin to work on, they will look at the 5 years and begin to, locate themselves to where they can get a direct constituency, which is not a youth constituency, for them to able keep their seats in those houses. So very rarely have we had active consultations from the young people, but the young people largely are trying their best. And we know that we shall not, with advocacy, you just have to keep it going. It is not done until it is over. So hopefully, but also I have to remind ourselves that being young is not a permanent state. So even as we advance these views, we are also crossing over to the Elders Council probably tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Very thoughtful. Very, very thoughtful. I don't consider myself a youth anymore, though. I think I've crossed that. I think I've crossed that bridge already. And so I'm just, advocating, helping, and want to help mentor the youths of tomorrow. Whatever it is that we have learned in our sojourn, we want to, commit it to the next generation to make sure that this world becomes sustainable and better for all. Now, when you look at the agriculture, the value added in terms of ranking, country-wise, you find out that luckily Nigeria happens to be on the top 50 nations in terms of value added to agriculture worldwide. Now, still, we haven't done much. There is a lot that needs to be done. And I'm sorry if some people are watching who are not Africans or who are not from Africa, but because most of the panelists that are on this platform or that are participating in this discussion are Africans, that's why there seems to be an emphasis on Africa. But otherwise, this is a global issue. Now, Michael, what do you think Africa as a nation, as a continent, what do you think Africa is doing as a continent to to increase our value in terms of contribution to agricultural produce and especially to ensure food sustenance?
Thank you so much. I think we still have Linda also in the house and Chegufaso. So maybe just try to activate your camera so that we can see your beautiful faces. And to your question, Mr. Paul, I think in one of the literatures I've read in the past, I think this was dated back as 2018, as at 2012, 11. Africa was said to be contributing just about 1% to global trade, which is a pointer to the fact that Africa is not doing well across all economic value chain. Maybe you talk of agriculture, you talk of production, you talk of mining, you talk of other things. And when America as a state is contributing over 27% to global trade, I think it's worrisome. And Africa having over 50 countries, over 50 states, what does this tell us? looking into what is happening within Africa as a region, now talking from the global perspective, we can see that we are bedeviled, seriously with issue of insecurity. And coming from my home state, Nigeria, we can see what is happening across almost all the geopolitical zones. The Fulani X-Men saga with the farmers, with the banditry in the northwest, and the banditry in the southwest, and what does this have to tell us? Now people can no longer go to farm. People can no longer produce things as it were. People can no longer even produce what they will consume, let alone on the commercial basis. And this is not limited to Nigeria. When you go to Ethiopia and Eritrea, it is the same. When you go to Somalia, Sudan, and other sister countries in Africa, the narrative is same. And what is this trying? I mean, in a nutshell, what am I trying to say is that the issue of insecurity in Africa, if it is not seriously tackled, and I think the youth innovation for human and planetary health may not be achievable, because when we talk of earth, we are talking of life. And when we are not properly fed, it invariably means that we are joking with death. So if people can no longer cultivate, if people can no longer produce, if people can no longer sell food, as it were, as source of revenue, automatically we are going to be adversely affected. No, we are even adversely affected now. We only hope that government can mitigate it. And another thing is, having talked about insecurity, we should look for ways of motivating or encouraging young people to embrace agriculture. Because when we talk of food value chain, we are talking of agriculture. So young people who are very resilient, who are passionate, who have the energy, who have the zeal, should be encouraged. And of course, in terms of demographic advantage, we have the strength, we have the number, we have the numeric advantage to actually go into agriculture, so that things can be better off than it is at the moment. And how do to further strengthen youth participation, of course, we have policies that needs to be renewed, and if not to be renewed, some should be knocked out, so that new policies should be bettered to give room for innovative ways of doing things in the agricultural value chain, so that lives will be better for every African. And I hope policy actors across regions of the continent will put serious consideration into this for us to get better, and to actually take advantage of the youth population to ensure that we have a very sustainable food system in Africa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Viewers, thank you for watching Opinion Sharers. And with me today are youth advocates and opinion shapers who are lending their voice, or their voices rather, to issues concerning youth on International Youth Day 2021. Now, well, we have three other women, young ladies that are supposed to be joining us from different countries of Africa. One, I believe, is from DR Congo. She's been here. She's even introduced herself, but she's dropped a comment that she's struggling with the internet. And there's another lady from, I believe, Botswana. She's also been going, coming, and in the background here, I can see her struggle with the internet as well. And there's another lady from Nigeria, and I've not seen her, but she's probably struggling with the internet as well. And the reason I'm saying this is that on this show, I've been emphasizing how much internet is limiting the African youths. There's nothing we can do. We literally cannot do anything, especially when you are expecting innovation, even in agriculture sector. Yet people don't have access to internet. There is billions of information, free information that is flowing on the internet, but people cannot access it. And this is an issue that I think African youths should, especially opinion sharers, opinion molders like yourself, should really be concerned about, because I am. Anyway, that's about that. I'll go to the next question. And then this next question would go to James, I believe. We are still trusting that these ladies, some of these ladies, will still be able to get in to join us and lend their voice to the discussion. When you look at finance, we are talking about, we're expecting transformation in the food system. Finance is going to be a major issue. And I think James perhaps have some experience in terms of financing and all. So I want to hear his professional advice or opinion rather on how Africa is currently doing when you look at financing the a transformed food system, especially at a time where we're also considering climate change. I want Michael to look at the politics that is related to this, the international politics that is related to this same question. Why James will look at the finances as relate to African youth. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul and Michael, for the insights. I would really love to take it up from Michael in regard to youth participation in agriculture or youth's involvement in the agriculture sector. I think we all must believe and agree that agriculture is a past, agriculture is a present, and indeed agriculture is a future. Yesterday, I made a narrative in one of the WhatsApp groups where I belong, and we're arguing. A friend of mine was saying that agriculture, no, it's no longer useful. What? I said, yes, my brother. One, you may have qualified as a doctor, and indeed, someone will need a doctor when they fall sick. But it is not every day that you will need a doctor. Someone could have qualified as an engineer. True, and we thank God you qualified. But I can tell you, no one is going to look for you every other day. Shortly after they have finished their house construction, they are going to throw you away. They will not need you. You may have qualified as a teacher, as a professor. True, we thank you for imparting knowledge into us. But now, do we still need you, Professor, sir? But I can tell you, with a farmer, you have to engage with the farmer every other day. All those other professions must engage with the farmers. Breakfast, lunch, and at supper time, you are engaging with farmers. So that shows you how agriculture is very, very useful. And indeed, even the doctors have told us that if you can't eat food as medicine, so you are going to eat medicine as food. And this is what has been emphasized during COVID-19. Eat a lot of lemons, eat a lot of vegetables, eat a lot of, who are actually in charge of, ensuring that the production of these are, on course. It's the farmers. And now, averagely, you'll find that an African farmer is that who is 50 years and above. In many of the African countries, 50 years and above are the farmer, and mostly women to even make it worse. Okay, and the question is, where are the young people? Where are the young people in this? The young people are highly communicative because they are the ones who are having access to internet. They are the ones who have, even when it is limited, like Paul says, but at least they have the access to internet. They have the access to all the lessons on YouTube. They are highly communicative. They can call, they have the airtime, they can call ABCD and learn one or two things. They can do the marketing. They can literally participate in all chains of the various, rather all the sectors within the value chain. But they are not there. Why are they not there? One is because agriculture has been looked at as something that is old-fashioned. And it is today that we are trying to, can we have slave farmers? Can we, try to entice young people to do agriculture as a fashion? Okay? Because agriculture is heavily profitable if it is invested in. Now, there is this which has become nearly a song to many of us, the advocates. The Maputo Protocol, the Maputo Declaration, where governments committed, African governments committed to finance agriculture sector with at least 10% of their budgets. And the question is, how many of our governments have lived their promise, have lived to testify their promise? So the limited agri-financing, limited agriculture financing is still a burden to many young people who would really want to engage within the sector. The inputs are, if you get them, some of them are fake, but they are also expensive. Land in itself, which is the biggest factor of production, is an expensive venture. To own land in Uganda is not an easy thing. And then you find there are these rich honkos who own large pieces of land which is just lying dormant. And the reason we are coming up as young people say, can't government instead of charging the internet, charge these dormant lands, pieces of lands, so that the owners are able to pay taxes for keeping those lands dormant, okay? Other than charging the internet, for instance. Because this land should be then given to the young people who want to engage in agriculture, okay? If there are investments in, say, for instance, the internet, to ensure that the internet reaches everywhere, to ensure that electricity coverage is improved, then we are so certain that young people will really engage in agriculture. Because there is no reason to why a young person should actually add the value on their milk to produce yogurt, which yogurt is going to die on the way because of the limited extension of electricity, and so they can't keep it in a fridge because there is no power, okay? There are many other issues that relate to agriculture financing. You also hinted on climate change financing. True, climate change has not been really, in my view, invested in to the levels that I would really expect. Uganda is a country, and I am one person who comes from an area that has suffered natural calamities year in, year out. Rivers have been flooding. Michael has seen these pictures, and they have been causing havoc. Landslides have actually destroyed livelihoods and lives as well. And so why should we continue having this? It even becomes much worse for the persons and youth living with disabilities, okay? Because they are nowhere in the discourse when it is actually time to discuss the disaster management plans. People with disabilities are not actually thought about, okay? Young people are not brought on board. And so all these are challenges that the governance systems within our countries really must address, so that everyone is brought on board at the planning stage, at the implementation stage, in the monitoring stage, and ensure that all the finances planned for are well utilized. Because there is this other COVID, which I call a COVID, the COVID called corruption. It is still a monster on the African continent. So however much we talk of agriculture financing, yes, we also must actually understand that we have a duty to be very good stewards. As I conclude on this point, I also want to reiterate the fact that young people in Africa have chosen to pray too much than working too much. St. Paul teaches us to, pray and work, ora et labora in Latin. But do we see this? We have seen instead young people wake up in the morning, go to church the entire day, then overnight. The word overnight has actually become almost another new vocabulary on the planet, on this African continent. Praying. Good to pray, but what are you praying for? Because St. Paul teaches us to say, Lord, bless the works of our hands. So you have been praying the entire day without working. You have been on WhatsApp politicking every other moment. What are you praying for God to bless? You first go to the garden, plant your beans, plant your maize, so that you pray to God to give you the rains. But you cannot ask God to give you the rains, for the rains will actually sweep away your life and maybe your house if you have not done anything productive. So my call to the young people is that even as we pray, can we also consider that we have a duty to work? Because we are actually constitutionally founding families. We are having young families, but can we sustainably manage our families if we are not working? So those are issues that we ought to actually, as we look at governments, as we castigate them for failing to, but we also have a duty to inform our very own brothers and sisters, our fellows, that they have a responsibility, a duty to play if we have to sustainably manage and live in Africa. I thank you.
Thank you very much, James. That was articulate. Michael, you want to take the second leg of it. The politics that is involved, we're especially talking about climate change and all.
Yeah, thank you so much, James, for that foundation you've laid. We can always build on it because you've done part of the job. You've done the larger part of the job, so to say. And let me say this from the angle of, should I say, the bad politics in Africa, and by extension, the global environment. We are such a continent that we are not strategic in our policy framework, and policy framework in the sense that we are not always futuristic in our planning. We often look at immediate and maybe by extension the medium term, but we are not actually very proactive. Now we have seen Western countries raising alarms over climate change, whole lot of things happening around the world. And when we look at our situation back home, even as subnational government in Nigeria, as a national government, and of course as a regional government in Africa, we can see that we are not actually we are not planning well. And the political environment, let me say transnational or international political environment, is done in such a manner that any country of the world will always want to benefit, we always want to profit from it. And it's this centers around research, this centers around funding. And when I'm talking of funding, I'm not talking of petty funding, every funding into research to see how best we can plan ahead of time. And now to even look into Africa as a continent, now everyone is talking of Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. We have few countries of the continent that have signed into this treaty, but I beg to ask should I say Africans, how realistic we see, do we see this happening? That I will allow someone from Benin Republic to just come into Nigeria to trade, as it were. Or allow somebody from East Africa, let's take for example my brother from Uganda, to just come to, as a Nigerian, I go to Uganda to trade. And at the end of the day, we see some of these national, should I say, let me use the word national economic sentiments setting in. I know how they begged Nigerian government to actually sign into this treaty, not because the government of Nigeria possibly never wanted to sign ordinarily into it, but looking at the should I say the negative implication. And when I say negative implication, now I'm talking with perspective to Nigeria. Nigeria is such a large market for, large market in Africa. And if we have other sister nations coming in, penetrating, and we have open borders, we are not controlling anything. At the end of the day, the market environment will be dominated. And that is why when we look at this, even as a regional system, as a regional bloc as African continent, we can see that even our house is not properly organized. Things are not properly structured. How much more if we want to compete in the international environment, if we want to compete in the international politics? We can see that we cannot be, it won't be such a profitable venture, so to say. So what I'm saying in essence is this: our political actors need to understand the place of research, the place of advocacy drive, the place of funding, and the place of, let me say this, using this demography of young people to achieve, to ensure that Africa is is well structured, to ensure that young people are used to actually, for profitable venture. Let me put it that way, for profitable venture, so that all of this terrorism, all of this banditry, all of these issues that we are talking about, I'm not saying it is not happening in the Western countries, of course, but it is not as pronounced as we have it here. So we have to now begin to realize that no, we need to be very strategic. We need to focus on research. We need to focus on heavy funding, and there is need for collaboration and partnership. If at all we want to compete, I mean, we want to build alliance as intercontinental states within Africa, or by extension the global environment. So all of this will help us a long way in competing favorably in the international environment, so that we not be contributing less than 3%, less than 2%, or perhaps 1%, as it was in 2012, to the global trade. So we need to wake up and see how best we can be strategic. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. It was detailed. Now, there's an issue that I think should, Michael just pour water now when I was about to talk about water. Yeah, so I have it here on my system. Say that it's a figure here saying 785 million people lack access to clean water, and especially it is believed that majority of the people that lack access to clean water in the world, 70% of them are, is it 70%? I think it's about 70% of them. No, sorry, 40% of them live in sub-Saharan Africa. And in most cases, when they are talking about sub-Saharan Africa, it only excludes maybe some of the northern African countries and South Africa. So which means every other country is inclusive in this 40%. 40% of all the people that does not have access to clean drinking water in in the world, they live in that part of Africa. And now it is believed that of all the population of Nigeria, that 70% of the country's population does not have access to clean water and sanitation. And this is something that should concern us, especially Michael. 70% of people in our country does not have access to clean water today. Now, I don't have the fact or figure for Uganda or some of the East African country, but I'm aware that Uganda, for instance, is a landlocked country, and a few other countries like that. We've seen drought heavily in some African countries, and there has been climate change that is also resulting to the lack of accessibility or access to uh, good water in Africa. Now, my question is this: what are we doing about it? You know, to ensure that people are able to get water. Water is life. What is Africa currently doing about it? And this question goes to both of you. As youths and people who currently reside in different parts of Africa. Michael is in West Africa. Cletus is in East Africa. What do you think the government and whether government organizations or NGOs, foreign and local, what are we doing? Are we doing enough? Who will go first?
Yeah, thank you. I know it's right to always allow the elder speak last. So let me speak before James actually take the microphone. Yeah, let me say this, that in addition to what Mr. Paul already expressed, it is not about the landlocked, shall I say, countries in Africa. I know, I mean, Ethiopia is a landlocked country, and few other countries in East Africa, and even those within the West African as well, like for example now, the Lake Chad Basin, that is more like a common property of Nigeria and few African countries, particularly within these, I mean, countries within the Lake Chad Basin. We can see the damage that, so I say, the climate change is doing to the daily dehydration of all of these natural habitats we have, both for humans and, of course, for animals. And if you let us look at it also from the insensitivity of government, yet the government of Nigeria is injecting heavy money into oil search in this particular region where we are actually meant to preserve. We can see the damage that is being done to the to the oil producing states as a result of exploration in the south and in the Niger Delta region of the country. So when we look at all of this together, it even shows that our actors, they are not considerate, or they are not giving consideration into the management of our natural habitation. And that is why farming is going up, almost on daily basis. And everything boils down to the table of government. Let me say the larger part of it is at the table of government, because if policy directives are not given, if government is not proactive in actually looking, being futuristic in planning about some of these things, don't be surprised that the Lake Chad basin may eventually dry up. And just like some of our sister countries in the northern Africa, in northern part of Africa, they are facing at present. So if we are not managing all of this, I know James knows better about what is obtainable in the eastern part of Africa, but as far as I'm concerned, the West African region of the continent, we are not doing well in terms of managing our earth resources. And now let us look at it from this perspective again. Almost every neighborhood around, my neighborhood, you see landlords drilling sinking borehole. This also poses a threat to our natural habitation in terms of the I don't know what the geographers call it now. Maybe you can help my English in terms of disorganization. Let me use that word, quote and unquote, of the earth structure, because all of these poses heavy danger to us. We can see landslides happening across places. We can see a tremor happening in places. So I am only of the opinion that a sound policy directive will help us to actually mitigate, should I say mitigate? Yes, all of these should I say impending dangers that are actually threatening our natural habitation.
Okay, so I guess this is the junction where I say Nigeria happened to Michael again. Okay. So it's not only Michael that is struggling. Really, this is another opportunity for me to sound the alarm again. That African youths are losing up on the internet, on access to the internet, and this is very critical at this stage. That African leaders, African youths need to advocate for quality internet, and make it even affordable. There are people that have been struggling. This lady that have been going in and coming in and going out. It's because our internet is not stable. She's coming from Mozambique, and there's
Botswana,
the other. Oh, sorry, it's Botswana. The other
Botswana,
lady
yeah.
is from DR
DRC.
Congo. Yeah, so it is just wrong, for this to continue like this. And I feel troubled, that people are struggling to have access to internet. In some of the Asian countries, their government is buying people in rural areas smartphone. Yes, government. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is something that I've experienced and studied.
It's
I've
a
seen
dream.
it. Yeah, the government is literally buying them smartphone, by people in the rural area, smartphone. NGOs are organizing to go and train older people to use the smartphone. I go to the market, I don't go with cash anymore. I know that there's smart paying system in some African countries, but at the same time, who is making money from this? It is the rich guys, not the average young Africans. Please, let's do something about it. We can do better, actually. So I think James would have to hold the fort while your brothers and sisters struggle to join back.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And yeah, I can only imagine how painful it is as a moderator, the way you're moderating, people who are on and off. Yeah, well, that is Africa, but that should not be Africa. It's actually our mandate. It's upon us, incumbent on us to voice out, to amplify these to those who have the authority, to those who have the power to change this status quo. Because I can only imagine if someone was in a job interview, for instance, online, how would you, wouldn't you just lose on that opportunity? If you are negotiating a business deal, wouldn't you one have actually lost this because of the internet? So it's we must appreciate the fact that even when they are saying COVID has come to be part of us, how I wish African governments come up to say internet has come to live with us. Internet is part of us. That should be actually the kind of the slogan, other than these on and off actually kind of sessions. What I have to say about the water issue, as we discuss food systems, we tend to look at what we eat and forget that food is, inclusive of the water that we drink. So, like for instance, in Uganda, those who have access to safe and clean water are only 8 million Ugandans out of the 42 million Ugandans. So, I don't know how many, those 30 something million Ugandans have no access to safe and clean water. Can you imagine? 27 million Ugandans have no access to proper sanitation facilities. That's huge. That's more than half of the population of Uganda have no access to safe sanitary facilities, and those actually pose very big questions and very big risks to our health system as well. And so we shall find ourselves investing so much, in health, in buying, medicines, other than investing in research, investing in things that would rather create innovation to ensure that the country becomes sustainable. Uganda is blessed to be one that has largely very many water bodies. Where I stay currently in the Kampala, in the capital of Kampala, we are just neighboring Lake Victoria, the biggest lake in Africa, I guess. Yeah, it's the biggest lake, if I remember my geography very well. Because this lake cuts across about 3 countries, Kenya and Tanzania. And I think a few, simple tributaries of rivers flowing into Rwanda, and so many other water bodies, rivers. Literally, in every valley, there are rivers. So we are faced with these, these are very big opportunities. But when we look at food systems, there is what we call food wastages, okay? We waste a lot of food, so we waste also a lot of water. You find it is only in Africa where someone gets a jerrycan to go and fetch water from a stream when it has just finished, when it has just rained, okay? It has just rained, but so we can't even have the knowledge to tap or to harvest the rainwater. That's how bad it is in Africa. It is our duty, because this is our generation now, it's our duty to change the discourse. It's our duty to advocate, to voice out, to create awareness at every level. Creating an impact does not mean that you have to transform, to change the entire country, alone. But we need to actually look out for partnerships and collaborations. We need to actually use the limited internet, as it is limited, maximally to voice out. We need to use the mass media to create awareness about the importance of conserving the water, both for home use but also water for agricultural production, because even in agriculture, that's where we need so much water. We need to irrigate. We need to ensure that investments or proper investments are made, so that even the smallholder farmers have access to small irrigation technologies, if we are to sustainably produce the food that we so much need to consume. So water is a very, very essential aspect of our livelihoods. There is no actually like I don't know whether it's you who put it or Michael, that water is life, and indeed water is life. That's what I can have to add.
Thank you for doing justice to that. Thank you, James. I have another question here, and the question is relating to the fact that agriculture is the single most important economic activity in the whole of Africa. About, I think, around 80% of Africans work in the farm one way or another to earn their living. But when you compare the productivity to other non-agriculture or non-farming activities, the earnings or productivity is far low. So how do we encourage young Africans to do agriculture when the productivity is far less? I mean, everybody wants to make money. The movement from rural areas where there are farms to the cities has continued to increase. When you compare that with that of countries such as India, with over 1.3 billion people. So how do we encourage Africans to look at agriculture rather than the normal subsistence farming that we've been used to?
Well, I don't know whether this is going to be by, Michael is back. But just to respond to that is that I think it still calls for policy directives or policy formulation, policy changes, if we are to improve everything around agriculture. For instance, I may recall that during my early school days in primary school, we used to have class gardens where I would literally go and do practicals at a certain hour, probably working out program. So a class X goes out to the farm to do some farming. There we're learning, but also we're being taught to embrace and to appreciate agriculture. It is another thing today, globalization and modernization, and the whole discussion around urbanization has come to change everything. Children of today, even those who are in university doing Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, do not know how the farm looks like. And these are the architects of the policy directive or the policy direction that we would love to see. So agriculture is precisely a practical subject. It's a pity that in many of the African countries, it is even not factored within the curriculum as a must or a compulsory subject. So my advice to governments listening to me and those government leaders listening to me would be, can we redirect the policies? We assure, we purpose to have agriculture as one of the compulsory subjects, because basically the economy of Africa is largely dependent on agriculture. So to sustainably do agriculture and productive agriculture, we have to appreciate the fact that the generation that we have must be well nurtured on the doctrine of agriculture, right from primary school, secondary school to university. I don't know how many agriculture-based universities we have in Africa, that you will go to a university which is largely only on agriculture, where to do agriculture mechanization, where to find agriculture irrigation, where to do agriculture marketing, you will find silos and things like that. They are not there. And why? Simply because we have forgotten that agriculture is a past, a present, and a future. There are issues to do with, agriculture being taken as a punishment, even in school. When you misbehave, then they send you to the garden to dig. And that in itself creates a mindset that agriculture is not good, because you have the only punishment readily available for you is to go to the farm. So it is now that our generation must speak, must voice out, must change the rhetoric to do with those punishments so that we embrace agriculture. It does not necessarily mean that we all must go to the farm, but the fact that we are advocating for internet access is in itself something that will enable us to, have so many people participate in this agriculture sector. So as much as we may have probably those fellows who are engaged in the farm, then we shall have those who are engaged in extension services. Then we can have those who are engaged in the transportation of these agricultural produce, and those who are working in factories to do agro-processing. But if we do not carefully plan and ensure that the current generation appreciates this agriculture, and we ensure that there are necessary uh, policies, relevant policies geared towards transformation of this agriculture sector, I do not see an improvement within the food systems. So it all lies on how we voice out, on how we cause changes within the government circles, how we, I don't know. I don't know how best we can do this. I have not heard of a rich person on the African continent who doesn't own a farm. All these presidents we are talking about, come to Uganda, go to South Africa, President Ramaphosa. These guys own farms. It's either a livestock farm or a crop farm or something like. And so they are not willing to invest and to entice so many other people to engage in this agriculture. That's the reason why in Africa we are still competing with primary, I don't know whether I could call them primary, primary products or raw materials for, we send our cocoa in raw form, we send our coffee in raw form, and then it is sold back to us expensively. No, it must change. It must change. Thank you, Paul. Michael can start off from there.
Thank you very much. I've been struggling to see how I can get in Segofaso. I'm not sure. Sorry if I mispronounce your name, but really I can imagine how much struggle you are going through. And really, I'm not, I'm really disappointed in the African government and the fact that there is no accessibility to young people. Africa has too many vibrant young persons who wants to contribute, who wants to participate in things that would bring blessings to Africa itself, but they are being prevented, and it's unfortunate. So if you can hear me, please can you just speak? Whenever you get in and you can hear me and you can speak, please do open your camera and you feel free to take it away or at least contribute something. I know you've been struggling. I have a question here for Michael, just in case Sagofast so is not there. So the question is this: there is a publication by McKinsey and Company, and the publication says inputs. Michael, I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Okay. He said inputs, that is fertilizer, seeds, machineries, and co. changes hands at least 3 times before they reach the farmer, which means there are intermediaries. Some big men first of all import the input or the fertilizer into the country, or the seedlings, or the machineries, and then there's another intermediary. There's another intermediary before it now goes to the rural area, where it finally gets to the farmers. And before you know it, what happens is that it becomes expensive. Some of these farmers can't even afford it. What is it that Africa is currently doing, and what is it that the youths can do to make, to probably enhance these chains of supply?
Yeah, thank you so much. Nigeria actually happened to me the other time, and it's quite terrible. Yeah. Now to answer the question, I think what even led to that in the first place, for should I say the inputs that should go to the farmers in order to ensure better produce, actually, and even the ones that are meant to be free ended up being sold to them. Well, we cannot actually blame those who are doing all of this, but it still boils down to the poor monitoring framework that government possibly, let me have refused to put in place to ensure that there is accountability in the system. For example, I actually, while growing up, I used to hear my dad say, okay, well, they are told to come to so and so place to pick up fertilizers. And at the end of the day, they will end up paying for what was meant to be free. And the narrative is still same now. I remember when the present AFDB president, Akinwumi Adesina, was a minister of agriculture during Jonathan. All of this happened. A lot of subsidies were given to farmers to ensure that okay, there's food sufficiency in the system. But everything ended up becoming something else. But the fertilizers meant to be sold for 4,000 naira, they will end up buying it for 8,000 naira. Now, it is a business. It is a profiteering business for those that are engaging in all of this. But now, to answer your question as to what the government is doing, that I can't categorically say, because the problem still appears to be more visible than the solution. So if we are saying what are they doing and yet the problem still persists, it invariably means that government, whether at subnational, at national level, they are not doing anything. Let me cite an example. Very recently, in one of the states that I've worked, that I've carried out the A1, participated in intervention program, the wife of the governor of that particular state made certain interventions for women, making some economic tools available for them, sewing machine, generator, deep freezer, and so on and so forth, all those regular interventions. And this is someone that cannot be on the feet to actually ensure that these things are distributed. She believed that she had trusted hands. And at the end of the day, report came out that these people actually gave the presented, don't let me say gave, presented those equipment to the people. They snapped picture and of course reported that all of these were given to them. That is what was meant to be free. And at the end of the day, alarm blew that all of these things that were distributed were eventually collected by those sent on errand by the wife of that governor to actually, they came back, they went back to those people and collected everything, and possibly they started selling. What am I trying to say in essence? The one who sent them on errand should ordinarily have put a monitoring and evaluation structure in place to ensure that okay, for those that are going to implement the program, there should be another team to actually carry out the evaluation. Same thing applies to government at the subnational, same thing applies to government at the national, and of course by Africa by extension. So what they are doing, I think, is what I can say. But what they should do is what I would possibly read out is that it is not just okay, the policy life is not complete if monitoring and evaluation is not included. We have the policy formulation, we have the policy implementation, and we have the evaluation. The evaluation comes the monitoring. So if you are saying you are formulating policies, you are implementing policies, and you are not putting the monitoring structure, the monitoring in place, it therefore means that the two first steps that have been taken, they are just efforts in futility. And I'm encouraging and I'm admonishing that the present state of Africa, and particularly Nigeria, is as a result of the poor monitoring and evaluation structure. Government just dish out money for interventions, government give out money for this and that, and at the end of the day, now nothing is being accounted for. And that is why the politicians, they are always siphoning a commonwealth. Who is watching the watcher? So who is watching those sent on errand to manage our commonwealth? So, and that is where civil society actors come in. And I think this is a strong charge. Citizens also should actively participate, because it is not just enough to vote these people to power or to allow them bring policies, but we must our own selves serve as watchdog to ensure that things are rightly done so that lives will be better for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, Michael, thank you. Um, we are rounding up soon. I'm just disappointed that these beautiful African ladies were not allowed, were deprived the opportunity to have their views heard. Yeah, I'm not. I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility that somebody should be responsible for this, and our leaders in Africa should be held responsible for preventing them. For not making the access to internet available. Yes, that's me.
Yeah,
Quote me. I
and
said so.
so sorry, just to even add to your points, and I think the insecurity in Africa is, I mean, the absence of internet in some of these communities also have contributed immensely to the insecurity in the continent. Because if things are happening somewhere in Baga, if something is happening in Goza, and people in the grassroots cannot just with I mean, a swift of the phone, a dial of the phone, or just log on to the Twitter or internet to report that, okay, this is what is happening in Goza, this is what is happening around Sambisa and all other things. Why? How will people get information? And of course, those who are meant to manage insecurity, how will they get informed that such is happening in that environment? So, just to add to what Mr. Paul and James already said, I think our African leaders need to wake up.
Thank you, Michael. So I'm going to ask this last question, and then I would allow you guys to make your own self-will, self-tailored opinion or statements while we close. The question is regarding COVID-19. Since we've been impacted, a lot of majority of the countries in the world have been impacted heavily by COVID-19. So this question is goes thus. COVID-19 pandemic has worsened the vulnerabilities of farmers, small-scale producers, rural women and youths. Now, I want you to educate us. When I say us, I'm talking about our viewers now and in the future. How, as African farmers been impacted? If yes, how? And then, if yes, what has the government done? Thank you. Both of you can take it one by one. Okay. James, please
Well,
go. Take it away.
thank you very much, Paul. COVID-19 has not left any stone unturned, and as such has heavily impacted on the African farmers, young and old. You know, the way it came was a rude shock to many of us. Many of us in our different homes do not actually own granaries. Neither do our governments have any silos. And these young farmers did not prepare adequately for this lockdown that was forthcoming. I mean, the lockdowns. And so the impact has actually been felt amongst the farmers, simply because, I mean,
I can see that Cletus is being, he has a visitor, so his son is probably asking questions. So please, viewers, bear with us for a moment. He will join me soon. And Michael
well,
is also
can I
listening.
continue?
Please continue.
Yes, that's parenting. Uh-huh.
I know.
So I was saying that they have heavily been impacted simply because the production chain was impacted upon. You will find that a farmer has probably his farm or their farm in a certain region of the country. But because we have been instituted in a lockdown, and so there is limited travel, so they can no longer travel to go and attend to their what? To their farms. When the shops were closed, okay, and airports closed. So those who depend on vaccines, those who depend on pesticides, they could no longer have them. Or even if they have them flown in the country, the processes for having them, dispersed from one end to another was not that very easy. Along the trade or the transportation lines, it was not very easy for farmers to transport their merchandise or their produce to the markets. And for those who managed to reach the markets, there were no buyers, because people were held up in lockdowns. So largely, we have actually seen a total destruction of on the lives or on the livelihoods of the farming systems, because a farmer could continue going to their farm, but where will they sell? And to whom will they sell when those people cannot access the markets? In Uganda, where the president allow those traders, I will call them farmers because they also involved in the agricultural value chain, the traders to start sleeping in the markets, okay? And those were the heroines and heroes. Sleeping in the markets meant that they had to sleep either with or without mosquito nets, without shelter. And so you can see how hard it was. And amidst that situation, the number of the clients, of the buyers, dropped. So it was not easy. I could see those who had poultry farms, okay? And probably they were producing eggs. The price of a tray of eggs, which probably was buying at 20,000, went up to as far as 6,000 Ugandan shillings. So it was a total loss on the farming system. So there is need really to sit down and address these issues, so that we address these issues with aspects of agricultural insurance, so much that the farmers can have their produce and their farms insured, for them not to face some of these losses in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Michael is still not back. I would, love to hear his opinion. Um, I don't know if this lady can hear me. If you can hear me, can you just switch on your microphone and speak? Faso, can you hear me? No, he can't. Okay, so Cletus, I think you should just, if there's something you wanted to say or add that I haven't asked you, please
This
use
is a
this opportunity.
this is a miracle that the Ugandan has behaved as though he's in Canada. Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
I've had my internet uninterrupted. Can you imagine? Well,
Yeah.
thanks to the Ugandan government for enabling me to, participate in this discussion today. I just wanted to add that yes, I wanted to reiterate the point on the curriculum, that indeed agriculture has to go back right from our education system. It has to be, merged. It has to be emphasized. I don't find a reason for why Ugandans study the Canadian prairies, for instance, instead of studying farming systems in Uganda. The history of Shaka, Zulu. I mean, we are imparting a lot of unnecessary knowledge in our young population, and leave out things that would really matter to them. I would love to see how many young Ugandans are waking up every morning to create applications using ICT. Now that we're in an age of COVID-19, I would really love to see a lot of investments into the IT information technology, because it is this information technology that will boost the food systems, it will boost the tourism sector, it will boost largely many other sectors. We are grappling with issues of data. Recently, our government was supporting the vulnerable populations with some cash handouts for them to survive during the lockdown. But there were issues, to do with how many, who are these vulnerable people, how many. So issues of data have to be emphasized, and you cannot sort them out if you do not have investments in information technology, in ICT. And so that's what I actually could end up with by calling on all African governments that in as far as they are singing the song of, solving African challenges with African solutions, there are those low-hanging fruits to begin with. The internet, we have actually all agreed that is one thing that we need to, invest in a lot. We have actually discussed issues to do with agriculture education, extension services, issues to do with food wastages, issues to do with addressing, the rural-urban migration, okay, where urban farming is not emphasized. Can it be emphasized? Issues to do with labor export. I'm still concerned with how many young Ugandans are leaving Uganda every other day to go and work as, nannies in people's houses in the Arab countries. Can we have all that labor retained by creating an enabling environment for them where farmers know that once I go to the farm and, engage in this farming as a business, I will at the end of the day be able to harvest and get a profit. But our farming and agriculture has been left to chance, that you go to the garden at the start of the season, you don't know how much you'll attain. You don't know even the price, you don't control the prices. You go and, engage in farming, in planting maize, and by the time you finish, a kilogram of maize goes for 100 Ugandan shillings. So farmers get demoralized. And these are things that actually have impacted on the mindsets of the young people to deter them from engaging in what? In agriculture. Those of us who have grown in the rural countryside, we have known it as a fact that farming or agriculture is for those probably who are less privileged. They go suffer too much, and after the harvest, they still continue with their suffering. So if we could actually see the trajectory changing, that yes, someone so and so engage in agriculture, either in a piggery farm, either in a poultry farm, and they are earning, they are making it, why not have all these? So we need these examples to come out, tell us that yes, I wasn't actually supported by government funding, or probably I was supported, or there is this direct kind of policy that every young person who wants to engage in agriculture must be supported with A, B, C, and D, and must be readily be assured of the market. Then every other African young person will engage in agriculture. I thank you, Paul, for this opportunity. And please, I thank you for calling on me always.
Thank you very much, James. I'm very, very grateful to have had you. And I don't know, it's disappointing anyway that the internet disappointed those ladies and some other, and it's even Michael also, who happens to be in Abuja, in the federal capital city of Nigeria. Yet he's still he's still falling away from the internet. I have a question here relating to innovation and partnership with education institutions, but you have already mentioned something related. So thank you very much. We'll be meeting again soon. Thank you very much, our viewers, those who have liked, those who have commented. A friend of mine, Ade, we went to college together. He dropped an extensive comment there. Thank you very much, my friend, my presido. He was the president of my department, economics. So,
We missed the village boy. I
yeah.
pass my regards to him. I've read his narrative. He actually came up with an article today, why businesses fail, and I think he also still relates to this topic, why agricultural businesses fail. So I'll try to find much more time to read through it, and I pass my regards to him.
All right. Thank you very much. The village boy decided to leave the stage for the youth today, but hopefully he will be back. And thank you very much. Thank you, our viewers. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Please, if you have youths around, please do share this content with them and drop your comment. Thank you very, very much, James. My regards to your family. Hey, guys.